Oh man, we're actually doing this, huh? It's finally time for that thousands of special I've been teasing for so long. I've rewritten this video countless times before. Not like this video specifically, but the concept of this video has tired the shit out of me. I've had at least 20 drafts of video ideas I wanted to do, but out of all of them I chose this. I'll go more into depth about that near the end, but just so we're clear, this is likely my final video ever. What a fitting way to go out with this channel by explaining such an expansive project that Retrospecter and his team worked on for years. Two things before we begin. Firstly, as you probably noticed, this mod is about 15 hours long, so due to its extreme duration, I will try my best to explain everything I can, but there will be a lot I may have to condense. For the sake of my computer's storage, and also because I really haven't tackled something this big in 2 years, but it's worth a shot. Secondly, please go check out the actual mod beforehand, because everyone needs to experience this first. At the very least, if you can't do that, then watch the official video released on Retrospecter's channel. It'll go over some stuff I might miss in this video. And without further ado, let's fucking start this. Okay, first we actually gotta discuss what Infernadise is, or what the mod is even based off of. If it wasn't obvious, the 7 deadly sins and the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are a main inspiration for this mod. I'm sure we all know what they are, but I think I'd rather describe how the system of Infernadise works. Thankfully, Retrospecter has graced us with the information that we needed to explain the hierarchy of Infernadise. The first and lowest rank of Infernadise is an Inf, which is essentially just a demon that wanders freely with no purpose. The second rank would be the Inferns, which is kind of like the working class. Inferns usually serve the third rank, the Infernalings. The Infernalings are essentially the 7 deadly sins that have their own respective area. Since the mod covers all 7 areas, I don't need to go into depth about that for now. Above the Infernalings is the second highest rank, the Infernalords, which are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. There are only 4 Infernalords: death, pestilence, war, and famine. These 4 are basically the founding fathers of Infernadise and decide whom the 7 Infernalings may be. They are also some of the strongest in Infernadise and also have meetings frequently. The Infernalings and the Infernalords are capable of fusing with one another to boost their power, unlike the previous ranks. The final and highest rank is the Infernalord Queen herself. Not much is given regarding her in the mod, and really she is more so an observer of the Infernal lands. The Infernalord Queen really only pulls up if it's crucial that she has to be there. Above Infernadise is Providise. If Infernadise is hell, then Providise is essentially heaven. Since Providise only appears for a bit during the actual mod, I won't go too in depth about it, but Providise and Infernadise have a pretty interesting relationship. 2 of the Infernalings come from Providise, and another Infernaling has a sibling in Providise. While things are tense between the 2 lands, they never act too extreme against one another. Providice's hierarchy system is basically just parallel to Infernadise. But there is still one more thing. Something that both Providise and Infernadise agree on hiding all information about. However, that is something that we'll discuss near the end of the video. Since there is heaven and hell, obviously there's going to be a purgatory of sorts. This location is called Regurgatory, for those who have no purpose in life. It is a very desolate and bleak location. I think the last thing to mention is that there are also multiple universes. I won't mention them too much, but they interlap sometimes. There's IPU, Infernal Paradise University, which is basically just a college universe. There's one other universe that we know of, a strange corruption universe, but too little information to really explain what it is besides a more depressing version of Infernadise. With most of that brief history lesson over with, we can actually get into the meat of the mod, where we start off at... Infernadise opens up with 2 Inferns, Velasma and Serpent Scheme, discussing their encounter with 2 particular mortals. The Infernaling of Wrath, Retrospecter, stops these 2 strange figures from entering the Infernal lands. Retro's not his actual canonical name, but for now that is who we shall dub him as. He also mentions his father, which... actually let's put a pin in that for a moment. We obviously know these 2 strange figures are boyfriend and girlfriend from FNF, but of course nobody here knows them. Boyfriend challenges Retrospecter to a duel and the 2 engage in the first song of the game. Mod. Little to nothing really happens during this song, so I'd like to take this time to discuss a bit of Retrospecter's backstory. Now we can discuss Retro's father, who is the Infernal Lord of War himself. Due to his father's position, Retro is basically forced into being an Infernaling, and that level of pressure is the source for why he usually is tense and has outbursts. War is also just a vile piece of shit overall, but that's for later. Since Retro got that position easily and didn't work for it, a few of the other Infernalings have a distaste for him, that being pride and envy. Retro also has a boyfriend, Ace, whom is neither demon or angel and rather from another dimension. Looping back to what I mentioned about him being so tense, you can actually see a bit of it in the first song. But trust me, this is not even close to how enraged he can get. I think the last thing I'd like to point out is the pretty meta references that the actual developer put in for his documented file in the mod. I see what you did there. In any case, the song comes to a conclusion and Retro decides to allow them into the Infernal lands. However, something unexpected occurs. Presumably Retro's father calls, judging by Retro's reaction to seeing his phone ringing. After a brief discussion which we don't hear about yet, Retro looks noticeably more pissed than before. Velasma and Serpent Scheme see this and immediately begin running off. Soon enough, Retro begins his transformation to the second phase, Berserker Retro. Flames erupt around them, and rock formations begin glistening with images. The next song begins, and oh my god, I love this song so much! I remember having this song on loop so many times in the demo, aka part 1, all the way back in 2021, so analyzing the background a little further gives some very interesting details. If we take a look up, there's a gigantic swirling vortex in the sky. I remember seeing the initial part 1 and just assuming it was there because it was fucking awesome. Turns out, just keep this in the back of your mind because this is a really huge plot point near the end of the story. Another minute detail I somehow didn't catch until part 2, there's a glowing crack beneath Boyfriend and Retro. This crack only forms after Retro's Berserker awakening, and the flickering light emitting from it implies the ground won't be stable for much longer. Returning back to the glistening rock formations, this is actually due to Retro's own powers. Retro in his Berserker phase is capable of spitting acid that melts through materials and reveals glyphs, as we see here. It's such a small detail, but truly so fascinating, because I genuinely thought the glyphs were just here to make the environment look cooler. As the song wraps up, Retro initiates his third phase and slams down, breaking the entire ground below as green aura surrounds him. I remember being left on this cliffhanger for 4 years, and it was so satisfying to finally see it continue. Boyfriend collapses into the cavern beneath the Wrath Ramparts and awakens to see Retro's third phase. Let me tell you, the environments of this mod is just so beautiful. I know, I just spoke about it, but the environments literally increase the immersion by 100. Ah, right. So let's start off with talking about this phase. As you can see, there's a giant ass chain on Retro now. This chain was formed by his father to keep him contained so he doesn't go beyond this stage. The chain is basically unbreakable, but there is another way to unlock it besides his father's key. More on that later. There are also 2 skulls on his shoulder plates. Let's just call it subtle foreshadowing for now. Overall, the transformation is so fucking cool, and I'm so glad I finally got to see it for a long time, since the only tease we really got to Retro's third phase was a feed pic on Twitter. Yes, I'm serious. Back to the actual song itself, something I immediately noticed was the background change, which is so fucking cool. Around midway into the song, fountains of magma in the caverns will begin to spew out. Even the ground that Boyfriend, Girlfriend, and Retro are standing on begins to elevate from the magma. The entire cavern begins to crumble, as you may notice in the background. Eventually, the trio are elevated so high that even Retro sinks into the magma. For a moment, it seems like Retro's dead, but if you remember, there is only one other way to unlock that giant-ass chain on Retro. That was, conveniently, the same fountain of magma that Retro just fell into. So in seconds, Retro emerges with a completely new form. I'm not gonna lie, the reveal of the fourth phase should have been predictable, but it was a complete shocker to me. Retro was kinda genius when it came to promoting this. The third phase was basically the main promotion for part 2, while also not being completely put on display, so we were led to believe that Retro wanted to hide it for the full release. The real transformation Retro was hiding, though, was this behemoth of a transformation. Retro only teases form like 2 days prior to the release, but since my ass only saw the trailer and then fell asleep until the release, I was literally stun-locked upon seeing this. So as Retro transforms into his fourth phase, the magma below bubbles and rushes upward, elevating Boyfriend to the top of the cavern. The final phase and trek in Wrath, Catastrofiend, has so much to unpack, so let's look at the design itself first. Catastrophe Retro's design is honestly so fucking awesome and definitely my favorite of the 4 phases. Circling back to the earlier mentions of the 2 skulls on Retro's third phase shoulder plates, this is what I was hinting at. It's such a subtle yet incredibly smart nod as to what was to come that it completely flew over my head but makes so much more sense looking back. In the case file for Phase 3, a theory is proposed that the 2 skulls are actually in resemblance of the previous Wrath infernaling, a 3-headed dog, which I believe to be the mythical creature Cerberus. Ironically, Cerberus is also technically restrained by a chain similar to Retro's third phase. I also love how even after all this time, Catastrophe Retro still holds that small microphone which basically dwarfs in comparison to his size. Oh, and in this phase Retro can still talk, but more like to himself? Because the other 2 heads also gain sentience during this phase, and seem to be discussing with one another during the song. While most of the lines just seem like Retrospecter threatening Boyfriend, there is one intriguing line. In the midst of the fight, Catastrophe Retro states, now, while it may seem like Retro's talking to Boyfriend, I personally have a more depressing theory. I believe that this is Retro basically projecting what his father tells him. See, some stuff I don't bring up from the case files are the several incidents that Retro causes. Obviously, due to this, his father continues to see him as a nuisance and a disappointment. This feeds into Retro's hate for his own father, and his own rage in total. It's a depressing cycle, to be honest. But I could just be overanalyzing something that might not be intentional. In the background, the magma launches Boyfriend and Retro so high into the air that the gates of Wrath are seen behind them. 2 symbols here are shown on the gate. Retro's symbol and his father, War's symbol. As the magma continues to elevate them, a strange green light similar to when Retro transformed appears around Boyfriend. Then an even stranger symbol pops up, which we shall discuss later on. Following this, Boyfriend awakens a transformation of his own, adapting to the Wrath Ramparts. Oh, and the background now changes to the entirety of Infernadise. Lustland Metropolis, Prior Spire, basically all 7 lands of Infernadise. As the song rages on, boyfriend, girlfriend, and Retro elevate so high into the air that they reach the swirling vortex in the sky. Ultimately, Retro fails to stop boyfriend, and the song comes to a grand conclusion with his defeat. Boyfriend and girlfriend return back to the caverns and progress onward into Infernadise with Retro out of the way. However, Retro's catastrophe seems to have gotten the attention of the other 6 infernalings, as they watch from above. But with that, Wrath finally comes to an end, and oh man, what a journey. Generally the best introduction to a mod and the world of Infernadise. This feels like a finale, but this is literally only 3% of the mod. There is still so much to explore, both with the mod and Retro's story itself. I mean, we haven't even gotten to his complete family and lineage, but I think I'll save any further details for the later sections due to just how long the section already is. But with Wrath aside, let us progress onward. Boyfriend and girlfriend approach the lusty lair square first in Infernadise because they're freaks. Look, it's not like you have to select lust first in the menu, nor am I doing it because I'm a freak, but more so, I think this is how it's intended. But we'll get back to that later in this section. The infernaling of lust, Sakuroma, introduces herself and gives a warm welcome to the two. Sakuroma tells them that they basically gotta wait in line 8 miles back, and of course boyfriend challenges them with the song. Now there is quite a bit I'd like to look over regarding Sakuroma. Firstly, what a design overhaul. I had to revisit part 1 for this video, and Jesus, her new design is far better. Sakuroma had a great design before, but I think that the part 2 version is the ideal design of what she should look like. Anyway, let's talk about Sakuroma herself. I'm going to keep some details from the case file for the second part or other Infernaling sections, but there is quite a bit to go over. Earlier I mentioned how 2 Infernalings came from Providise. The first of those 2 is none other than Sakuroma. The lineage of Sakuroma's family is one that I think I'll save to describe later on, but this explains why Sakuroma is a lust Infernaling. Sakuroma, as the Infernaling of lust of course, has admirers all around Infernadise. Demons view a night with her as a life-changing experience. Sakuroma is also pretty picky when it comes to who she sleeps with, and even goes as far as to make anyone who sleeps with her sign hundreds of waivers. Bro, she's pretty, but she's not all that. Even her second form isn't all that. Okay, well she might be all that, but there's definitely more hotter demons in the mod, guys. There's so much activity seen in the background. Lots of folks, but one particular one I want to highlight is this specific character. I know it must be so annoying to hear me say let's put a pin in that, but let's put a pin in that for a while. As Sakuroma is about to let boyfriend and girlfriend in, Sakuroma receives a call from an Infernalord. After she hangs up, she informs boyfriend and girlfriend that they should visit the other 5 Infernalings before continuing this freak off. Like I said before, I feel as though this is the intended version because if you actually see the other 5 Infernalings, well, there is a secret dialogue for that. Sakuroma's superior and Sakuroma is just shocked. Retrospecter probably expected the player to be a freak, and also Sakuroma was the only other character seen in part 1, thus he probably expected them to continue that story first. Regardless if this path was intended or not, it's good that Sakuroma is brought up now, since her connections to the other Infernalings are quite interesting. For now though, let's progress onward to the Infernaling of Pride. Boyfriend and girlfriend arrive at the Prior Spire after the order is given to visit the other Infernalings. The Infernaling of Pride, Azurius, already awaits them alongside his assistant Citriol. One thing I love about the Infernalings and the Infernalords is their voice acting, because my god, the voice acting is so good. Azurius' voice actor perfectly fits the role for what I had imagined the character to sound like. Azurius congratulates boyfriend and girlfriend on defeating Retro, and you can clearly see his bitter taste against Retro here. Azurius asks for a rap battle, and yada yada, same thing as before. Let's pick apart Azurius himself though. Azurius is quite obviously stated as a workaholic, working all around the clock. Working is basically all Azurius knows, so he judges his own disciples pretty strictly. The only co-worker Azurius really likes is his own assistant Citriol. Citriol is one of the few characters to always remain silent in the mod. There's not even a case file for him, so there's basically nothing that is known about him. Though he likely is just as hardworking as Azurius is, which is why Azurius views him so highly. I think the most obvious reason why Azurius dislikes Retro so much is because of how they contrast each other. Azurius worked hard to attain his role in the Prior Spire, while Retro was handed his role on a silver platter. Given, Retro didn't really have a choice and he would much rather not be an Infernaling, but Azurius didn't know that. Azurius' beef with Retro even extends to the alternate universe IPU. They aren't even Infernalings in that canon, and Azurius still is a Retro hater. I think it also stems down to how Azurius operates in comparison to Retro. Azurius is calm and collected. Retro is incredibly hot-headed and wild. Now a little more about this Prior Spire itself and why Azurius got this role. The Prior Spire is an archival place for all of Infernadise, which makes it an incredibly important location. It is one of the oldest locations built in Infernadise as well. Taking a look at the actual Prior Spire in game, you can see that Azurius has a multitude of statues himself. After all, he is the Infernaling of Pride. He probably views the rest of the Infernalings as beneath him. Though he's not without his flaws, but he also tries to mask them. I mean literally masked them. The entire reason for all the gear on his face is to cover up a chemical accident in the past which melted off a majority of his beak. Actually, now that I think of it, Azurius wears the most layers of clothing out of the entire 7 infernalings. Oh, and Azurius tries to take a majority of the spotlight during the first song. So much so that Boyfriend is like genuinely agitated by the end of the song. It's funny as hell. Speaking of which, by the end of the song, the same 2 sky symbols from the Wrath finale show up. Once again, Boyfriend and Girlfriend's designs are completely changed, and they have a gear that's almost parallel to Azurius' own gear. It's so sick, I love it. Azurius orders Stitchiel to prepare the drugs concoctions for the next song. Immediately, like 5 seconds after the song begins, the entire screen is swirling. I pray for anyone genuinely trying to pass the song on the hardest difficulty. Aside from that, there isn't much to go on about since I spent the first half basically talking about Azurius already. I guess I could mention that Azurius also makes clothes for the other 6 infernalings. Honestly, getting drip from this dude I'm sure would be fire as hell. He's probably the most annoying infernaling out of the 7, but I gotta appreciate his skills. Also, Azurius' IPU counterpart definitely gives me Birdly vibes. I know Retro's a Deltarune lover too, so there has to be some influence there. The song comes to a conclusion and a sky swirls around Boyfriend and Girlfriend, taking them away. Azurius also mentions something interesting, a super boast form. Look guys, I tried to look through any possible song or continuity that has this form, but nothing. No results. Nada. Either 2 things could be happening here. A, he's bluffing, or B, he would get his ass beat for transforming. Most other infernalings have their extra forms sealed away by infernal lords for obvious reasons, Retro being the biggest example of why it's not a good idea. Though I am so curious now, so I do hope one day we get to see it. Pride's section comes to a close as Azurius gets some more demon caffeine and prepares for the night ahead. Now let's go find out where Boyfriend and Girlfriend warp to next. Boyfriend and Girlfriend transport to the Veiled Voids, where they encounter the next infernaling, Insatian. They caught Insatian at a pretty bad timing while she's on a hunt for more Crimstalkers. To summarize Crimstalkers, they're basically small flying creatures that are going extinct because of Insatian. Even Insatian herself mentions a problem. So, utilizing Insatian's screams with the help of Boyfriend singing, she intends to lure the Crimstalkers out. I'm sure you understand the cycle by now. As the song begins, I talk about the infernaling herself or the background or the cool details of the song. Let me just say, Insatian is like my top 3 favorite characters in the entire mod. She's so fucking awesome. She's like the coolest representation of the sin of gluttony. Insatian is not even that evil of a person. Her file literally mentions how chill of a demon she is. Even in a side story where she goes against Retro in his final form, she's pretty chill and even tries to offer Retro a big meal after the song. The only problem with her really is just her addiction to food. She's having so many Crimstalker mukbangs on average that the Infernal Lords are complaining. Actually, now that I think about it, I feel like Insatian would be the type of demon to have a food review channel. Like the Report of the Week type thing. More about the Veiled Voids itself and Insatian's connection to it, it's far more dangerous than a lot of areas. The portals can leave your limbs basically fucked forever. Insatian is the guardian of the Veiled Voids and she has a portal inside of her and she adapts pretty quickly. Azurius takes advantage of the special biological power to test several things utilizing Insatian's portal. Insatian views Azurius as a good friend, but I kinda doubt Azurius views it that way. However, their IPU counterparts have an even closer friendship to the point where I could see some genuine shipping implications there. Insatian's file also mentions something really interesting. While Insatian was portal hopping one day, she came across a few red portals that turned to a white color for a few seconds. I have a few theories of my own regarding this. Firstly, this could be the effects of the rift open during Boyfriend and Girlfriend's arrival. This theory could actually be plausible since Insatian mentions about how it took her to IPU in a side story. A second possibility is that this is a gateway to Providise. This also has evidence to prove it to be true, as you'll soon see. Usually, demons are only able to go to Providise with the approval of the Infernal Lords, so this could actually pose as a really big problem. Either way, it seems like something we won't get any confirmation until a possible sequel since Insatian hasn't informed the Infernal Lords yet. I'll save any further details about Insatian for the second song, but what I will say is her screams are fucking sick as hell in the first song. At the end of the song, the designs of Boyfriend and Girlfriend change yet again as Insatian moves on to phase 2. Now Insatian is noticeably a lot taller and much more enraged. Crazy as Crash Out in the mod. Yeah, the designs of Boyfriend and Girlfriend are badass as usual, but this ain't about them. The second song includes a portal effect on the screen every time you make a click on Insatian's special note. Let's take a deeper look into this transformation. Why did Insatian grow twice as large and become such a fiend so quickly? Well, when she grows super hungry, she begins to evolve into a much more enraged state. This state is only a preliminary phase, as once Insatian reaches the highest amount of hunger possible, she evolves into her final form. This form has, for better or worse, not been seen in the mod just yet. However, it's so deadly that the entire area around her is basically warped into another location. I'm sure you can see why the Infernal Lords have to intervene with this dilemma. Notice the shackles on Insatian's legs and hands? Well, that isn't just because it looks heavy metal. Similar to Retro, these shackles serve as a limiter to prevent an evolution to the next phase. But these shackles only perform so well in a case like this. So the shackles really only slow down the evolution, not stop it entirely. Also, remember how I mentioned the portal warping one location to another? That's likely why there's a gigantic pulsing cathedral in the background. It was probably a previous location that was affected by Insation's hunger evolution. After that legendary song, boyfriend and girlfriend are taken away by the Scythe again, escaping death once more. Luckily, a Crimstalker was nearby, so Insation will not go hungry today. Now that I think about it, Insation's probably the only one of these 7 Infernalings to not have any subordinate. Quite sad, she's such a friendly gal. That is, when she's not hungry. One last thing. At the end of her encounter with Catastrophe Retro in a side story, Retro communicates to someone that the game doesn't specifically state. I believe Retro is discussing with an Infernalord, most likely Famine, since Retro mentions how Gluttony is a spawn, though no explicit connection has been shown so far, except for when Insation mentions her mom in a side story. In any case, where will the swirling scythes take us now? The next stop boyfriend and girlfriend take is the Hive Hinds, another location that could be seen in the background during Retro's catastrophe battle. Awaiting there is Hivemind herself, the infernaling of greed. As per usual, Hivemind has zero clue how the hell the two got there. Boyfriend wants to do another song, but now has to pay a fee from Hivemind. One of Hivemind's loyal bees, Terry, helps boyfriend so he doesn't go into infinite debt. The first song cues, and one thing I have to compliment is just how fucking amazing this area looks. The backgrounds of this mod. It doesn't even feel like a mod. The amount of detail on the Hive Hind is just so astonishing, the mural being my favorite piece of the entire background. Anyway, let's discuss the Infernaling herself. Earlier I mentioned how Sakuroma is not the only Infernaling from Prelude. As I'm sure you guessed, Hivemind is the second of the two. Both Sakuroma and Hivemind share a deeper bond than they do with the other Infernalings. This is mainly because they are both exiled from Prelude. The current reason as to why is unclear, but there are a few possibilities. One, as I stated before, they were sent to Infernadise to help it thrive. There is another possibility, but I will save that for later on. Oh, and they also are sisters, in quotations. See, my dumbass until now genuinely thought that they were biological sisters. Turns out, they were both adopted by nature herself, which is from Prelude. There's a third sibling, Chastity, however little to nothing is known about her. Though I am going to give a bit of my own speculation. Chastity is likely the polar opposite of Sakuroma, since chastity literally means little to no sexual relations at all. Since the other two siblings were also insects, of course this means that she would be an insect as well. This is backed up by her concept art. Chastity also seemed to have a scrap song as shown by volume 4 of the soundtrack. Now all this to say that Sakuroma gets kind of an advantage from Hivemind due to their connection. You see, Hivemind's job is basically to keep the economy of Infernadise in check. Honestly, making Hivemind a bee is pretty genius. When the time comes, all bees leave Hive Hinds to go collect any debt, just like bees would go to collect pollen. Every Infernaling owes Hivemind some sort of debt, as we can see in the background, whether it ranges from $5 up to $50,000. However, Sakuroma is the most severe case of being in debt, with over $69 million in debt? How is that even possible? Any normal Infernaling would be cooked by now, but since Sakuroma and Hivemind are so close, Hivemind is more merciful on her. Since we're on the topic of debt, if you really are in debt, well, you'll get to find out why Infernadise is hell. Beneath the Hive Hind is the Hive Minds, where every demon in debt has to work to erase what they owe through mining resources. Lots of plays on the word Hive Mind, huh? I see what you did there. That's all about there is to know in relation to Hive Mind, but there's still more about her workers. I love how much information is given even about her own co-workers, which makes me so much more immersed in this world. Though, since I'm sure you probably don't care too much, I only bring up Terry. We already talked about how much of a goat he is from saving boyfriend's ass, but Terry also appears to be, a little more powerful than he lets on. But his IPU counterpart is like genuine comedy gold. For some reason, he's like the most ripped character in the entire mod, and he even ends up flirting with his own main universe counterpart? Did I warn you guys that this would be my most insane video ever? Well, there's your warning. Regardless, boyfriend and girlfriend transform once more with the Scythes. Hivemind is pretty baffled at how boyfriend isn't at the point of selling his own soul. Hivemind starts locking in and charging triple the amount just to get poor boyfriend in debt. The song plays and the usual, hold on, what? You can't just transform mid-song, that's illegal! Is it? Anyway, the entire Hive Hind just turns to a fucking nightclub and Hivemind enters her second transformation. I love her second form, genuine sick-ass transformation. Actually, I lied, this isn't a second form. The file regarding her considers it more as an alternative form. To be honest though, the form looks and is documented to be much more dangerous than her base form. Hivemind, or should I say Hiveless, can just insta-kill demons in this form. Now that I think about it, it would be kinda interesting to power skill Infernalings. Oh well, someone else will have to make that video. Hiveless loses again and begins to suspect the new drip boyfriend and girlfriend had could be protecting them. Now would be a good time for anyone taking notes to write, put a pin at this timestamp, because I will say she's onto something. Hiveless crashes out even more and puts Hive Hind into a maximum lockdown. Cue the third and final track, which is a little surprising because not every Infernaling gets the luxury of a third track. This track though is generally in my top 5 of the entire mod. Kamex is a legendary artist. I don't study music by any stretch of the imagination, but my god, every track in this mod is either pretty good or absolutely legendary, for sure. I don't have much else to say regarding the lore, but I just admire the attention to detail so much. It took a while for me to notice the bees and the small hive slots in the background. Anyway, you're not here to hear me glaze this mod, so pressing on word. The skies save boyfriend and girlfriend's ass again before she even goes more berserk. Hiveless yaps on for a bit before realizing that the two have already vanished. With that, we've officially reached the midway point, at least regarding the amount of chapters in this video, I think. I have no clue how long this is going to be. While Hivemind was pretty violent, she's not that terrible of a demon. She mainly sees the other demons as inferior since she originally came from Providence. However, the next infernaling up on the chopping block is one that is much more diabolical, let's say. Let's take a dive underwater, shall we? Okay, side note, my cat is currently taking a shower for himself, I guess. You know what I mean, like cats licking themselves and all that. So if you hear any licking in the background, that is because my cat is taking a shower. So, yeah. Alright, let's begin. Boyfriend and girlfriend find themselves in one of the deadliest places in Infernadise, the Emulous Expanse. Atrocian, the infernaling of envy, is here to greet them. Alongside Atrocian is his sister Terendis, who honestly couldn't care less about them. Atrocian explains how girlfriend basically saved boyfriend from dying yet again through her own means. Not much else to point out with this dialogue besides the partially unnerving vibe that comes with Atrocian when he speaks. One that will definitely prove to get worse and worse as we go forth. Because trust me, I have a lot to say about Atrocian, and a good 60% of it is not good. Cue the song! Look, I'm trying my hardest not to admire the backgrounds every time there's a new section of the mod, but Jesus, dude. Okay, I'll talk about the Emulous Expanse when I get to it. First and foremost, Atrocian himself. Where do I even start with this guy? Appearance-wise, you may notice the gigantic swirling group of souls in his stomach. This is due to Atrocian hunting and devouring souls for sport while in the Emulous Expanse. Atrocian has a certain ability that not other infernalings have, and that is to be able to basically brainwash any demon. Yes, this even includes an infernaling, which has happened before. Speaking of infernalings, I mentioned how Envy and Pride dislike Retro. While Xarius just sees Retro as unfit and unworthy of his job, Atrocian has an even bigger reason to hate Retro. A while before the events of the mod, Atrocian pleaded with the Infernalords to switch his position as an infernaling to a more fitting one. The Infernalords informed Atrocian that there was a spot open for Wrath, which excited Atrocian. However, days later Atrocian was rejected this position before he could even attain it due to... well, I'm sure you can guess. Thus, Atrocian grew an incredible distaste for both the Infernalords and Retro. Multiple side stories outside of the main story actually show this storyline. How about I start with the time Atrocian possessed someone close to Retro to gain a bargain advantage? Yep, Atrocian took control of both Sakuram and Retro's boyfriend. Both times he failed at trying to gain the upper hand. I also think that even if Retro wanted to give the position over, War would have not let him. War is an asshole, and he probably would have said some shit like, "Your relationships will not get in the way of your destiny." Atrocian also had an incident with Sakurama which made her despise him, but I'm gonna save that for less part 2. You'll see why. I think the biggest moment for Atrocian was when he actually faced Retro in a side story. Mainly he just riled him up, and honestly this rage bait is kinda working on me too. Keep her name out of your fucking mouth, prick. In another side story, Atrocian tries to team up with 2 duplicates of himself to overthrow the Infernalords. Atrocian is actually really lucky to even be in the same position he is now with how many stunts he's pulled. I could go on and on. I could mention how even his IPU counterpart is even more of a loser. Though his IPU counterpart has a far more depressing origin, but he is also way more disgusting. But I'll stop here. You get the point. Atrocian is unlikable, but I'm kinda grateful for that. I feel like while right now he's just a joke, he could genuinely be a compelling villain if the story ever continues. Once more, at the end of the song, boyfriend and girlfriend transform. I think out of all these forms, this one has to be the coolest one for boyfriend. I genuinely love it. Atrocian is now on his knees pleading for the two to sing once more, and boyfriend reluctantly agrees. I'll take this time for the next song to now discuss the Emulous Expanse and Terendis. And that music, because goddamn... okay, I'll stop. So, as I've said previously, the Emulous Expanse is a super dangerous area. After a demon dies, again, they either get sent to Death's morgue or, in worst cases, here. Due to the sheer size of the Emulous Expanse in the background, souls can get lost pretty quickly. Thus why Atrocian is there to assist Death to get any souls in the Emulous Expanse, or just eat them, I guess. Now regarding Terendis, oh, there's nothing about her. God damn it, I swore I had something. Some file, somewhere? Maybe my mind was just playing tricks on me. I'm so sorry, guys. Hey guys, editor's note from Sosu here in December, as I'm almost done with the video, and the video's about to release. Anyway, a lot of the art seen in this video will be in the description, so yeah, go check that out. A lot of talented people made these art, and I love them so fucking much, so please go check it out when you can. after the video's over or during the video. Okay, bye. Following the next song, girlfriend and boyfriend are sent to the next infernaling, and Atrocian is pissed. Atrocian appears to be talking to the one transporting boyfriend and girlfriend from place to place. Later on, this rage will seemingly boil over. Atrocian continues to scream out his plans to take over Infernadise, and poor Terendus has to put up with it. Regardless, that concludes Envy's section. I like and despise Atrocian. Most controversial character out of the Infernalings, but not the most despicable in the mod. Unlike a certain other one, he kinda has a reason to be so vile. Though, enough about him. I'm sure this isn't the last time I'll discuss him. So onward we go! The final Infernaling awaits! At last, we arrive at the final Infernaling section, kind of. This section will probably be much shorter than the rest, and to be honest, I almost forgot about it. There are so many things to love about this section, but I don't know. I guess it just didn't cross my mind. Anywho, boyfriend and girlfriend take a stop at the Comatose Catacombs. Guess I forgot to mention there's a third location that demons go when they die. Ah well, instead of an Infernaling greeting the two this time, it was rather the Infern. Enter Regato, this beautifully designed and adorable cat robot, much more talkative than our Infernaling pal Dozeric. Though I'm not surprised. This dude Dozeric literally sleeps for 752 hours. Okay, I get it, he's the Infernaling of Sloth, but that's an entire goddamn month. Yada yada, first song and all that. It's quite literally just boyfriend singing. I guess I'll talk about Regato here to fill the void. Regato was made as a companion to Dozeric, and she loves to scavenge Dozeric's junkyard for valuables. She also tends to short circuit quickly, as seen when she's talking with boyfriend and girlfriend. That's unfortunately all there is regarding Regato. I'm pretty sure Regato doesn't even appear in IPU. Kinda sad, she's so adorable. I hope in the future Inferns get more of the love they deserve. So boyfriend quite literally sings all day. Also, boyfriend and girlfriend get their own final transformation. Regato goes to the factory to forcefully awaken Dozeric while boyfriend and girlfriend sing once more. I haven't said much about the background details, but one thing that separates this one from the rest is that the background is kind of moving? Occasionally a train or two will pass by, smoke from other factories, and Regato just chilling on a pile of gears. The background changes once more during the second song as night arrives. Dozeric finally awakens from his beauty sleep, and at last the song begins to finally get exciting. So, Dozeric, huh? Dozeric is the most relaxed and oldest out of the Infernalings, and I 100% believe there's a 0 death rate if you were to live near him. Unless you actually provoke him or Regato, then he'll probably jump your ass. There's actually a scientific reason behind why Dozeric needs so much sleep. Due to Dozeric literally being ancient levels of old, his main source of keeping him alive is slowly losing stability. The sleep, however, is what stabilizes Dozeric's core. You may be asking, why doesn't his creator just fix that? Well, Dozeric's creator is implied to be far beyond Infernadise, somewhere within that very rift that boyfriend and girlfriend opened up. The story goes that Dozeric and his creator once lived happily together, but Dozeric was seemingly abandoned to the catacombs. An Infernalord came across Dozeric and offered the opportunity to become an Infernaling. Dozeric agreed upon it, and ever since he has roamed the catacombs, hoping one day he will reunite with his creator again. Earlier I mentioned how Regato was made like a gift to Dozeric. Since this happened before the mod began, it could have been recent. This implies that Dozeric's creator could still play a role in the future, which ties with the theory that I'll discuss later. Despite the tragic backstory, Dozeric lives a much more peaceful life than some of the others. The rest of the Infernalings are on good terms with Dozeric, so everything is mostly pretty well. I suppose until today. Boyfriend and girlfriend warp out of there before Dozeric can properly speak to them. Regato panics and Dozeric calms her down. Dozeric states a quite chilling yet also depressing final line to conclude Sloth.
Only turn that resonator on if our creator comes back.
Understood.
Any millennium now. I'll wait for you. As long as it takes.
With that, the main 7 Infernalings are complete! Yes, I know, Lust Part 2 is next, and even though it's not part of the finale, I'd like to consider it as the first part of it. You'll see right about now. After all the shit they went through, boyfriend and girlfriend finally reap the rewards. Returning to the Lusulaire Square, both finally are permitted into the main event. Sakurama welcomes Attune to Fuzzy Feeling and offers her special services. And the rest of the Infernalings are here too. What a nice reunion, seeing as this is their last time they'll be seen for the rest of the story. Ace comforts his boyfriend Retro as the effects of the transformation is still pretty visible. A detail I intentionally left out in Wrath's section was that the fallout of Retro's transformations takes a super long time to revert back to this first stage. Since boyfriend and girlfriend traveled the Infernadise in about a day or two, it still is too little time for Retro to completely return to normal. Retro points out an interesting detail that alludes to a later scene. Retro wasn't in control while transforming through phases 3 and 4. Normally he'd be in some level of consciousness, but he completely blacked out then. Aside from that, the rest of the conversation is just some silly banter between the main 7. Sakurama leaves the discussion on a very ominous note as the next song begins. Now I can finally discuss the other portion of Sakuroma's file I left out. As you may notice, Atrocian is not sitting beside the other infernalings, rather he's possessing another demon. There are many reasons why, mainly because he's a dick, but also because Atrocian is basically blacklisted from Fuzzy Feeling. Sakuroma doesn't just hate Atrocian because he's a piece of shit, but because he nearly killed her. You see, a long while ago there was this demon that slept with Sakuroma. Things were going fine at first, but suddenly the demon took advantage of Sakuroma's guard being down and choked her. Sakuroma retaliated, and the demon fled. Sakuroma realized that Atrocian was possessing the demon, and reported it to the Infernalords. Of course, the Infernalords did nothing, but since then, Sakuroma has had an extreme amount of resentment toward Atrocian. Thus why Atrocian can never show his face physically in Fuzzy Feeling or Luculaire Square ever again. Aside from that, I guess I can point out the infern she has here. Mainly just robots though. That's probably why Sakuroma owes so much to Hive Mind. But hey, there are a few demons, like that bunny bartender. Genuinely a super adorable design, it's unfortunate she didn't appear much. After that song with glorious instrumentals, pink smoke begins to fill the room. Soon enough, Sakuroma transforms into her second phase. Boyfriend also transforms into his freaky-ass form. The smoke around the room is revealed to actually be her lust dust, which she only uses in phase 2. And at last, one of the most awaited transformations of the mod shows up. What a fucking form, dude. Now, this might be a mildly hot take, but I actually kinda like the IPU variation of this form more than the main one. Though this form on its own genuinely kicks ass. Since we're on the topic of her second form, enter Heartbreaker Sakuroma. Kinda like Retro's fourth phase, this is a completely separate identity from Sakuroma. Heartbreaker Sakuroma would much rather settle down with a suitor quickly than stay as a less infernaling. She's also the manifestation of all Sakuroma's dark thoughts, almost like the antithesis of everything Sakuroma is. In fact, the second form isn't really her actual second form. Rather, her original second form was warped into this form. The story goes that way back in Prelude, Sakuroma and her sisters were tasked by their mother to retrieve a collection of books. While searching for these books, Sakuroma came across a glowing book and began to read the contents. Due to her reading these contents, she began to be possessed and Hive Mind had to shut the book to stop her. Chastity, the third sister, ratted both the two out, and it's implied this incident is why Sakuroma and Hive Mind are in Infernadise. In a later conversation, Sakuroma discusses with her Heartbreaker form, and this conversation seems to further imply that this was the reason. I would finally like to redirect your attention to a likely canon story. There's a whole arc where IPU and Infernadise cross over. As I previously mentioned in one of the side stories, Sakuroma's IPU variation attains phase 2. Sakuroma actually has a pretty wholesome conversation with her IPU counterpart, telling her to stay strong and don't give in. She even consoles her IPU counterpart and seems to act almost maternally to her younger self. Just something adorable I wanted to point out, and this won't be the last time we bring up Heartbreaker Sakuroma. For now, I guess I have to talk about this interesting setting. Boyfriend's last transformation is honestly quite accurate to what I expected. In the background, multiple skeletons are either chained up or in cages. I speculate that these were the demons who previously came across Heartbreaker Sakuroma, though it literally could just be a cool aesthetic. Update, as it turns out, these were literally just props for the aesthetic. Also, Girlfriend is not here, probably the last time Girlfriend will ever appear until the end of the mod. Again, I don't know anything about music creation, but dude, this instrumental is so beautiful! Boyfriend warps out of there and Heartbreaker Sakuroma disses Atrocian. With that, all the 7 infernaling stories are complete, but now, the finale awaits. Boyfriend, now isolated, finds himself in a black void. In the darkness, a small light shines through. Boyfriend steps into the light and arrives at none other than Prelude. There to greet him is none other than Retro's sister, Pendulombra. Pendulombra can be separated into 2 different characters, technically due to a birth defect. Pendu on one head, and Dulum on the other. Pendu searches through a list of guests to see if Boyfriend can enter Prelude. Although Dulum immediately picks up on Boyfriend's scent and sees that he's already traveled through the entirety of Infernadise. During this conversation, Dulum confirms Retro's actual name, Virupen. Dulum immediately starts throwing hands at Boyfriend since he emerged from Infernadise, and Pendu remains calm. The song begins, and one thing I gotta say is just how fucking cool it is that Pendulombra has 2 rows of sprites and notes. Anyway, let's discuss the waves of lore that come with Pendulombra's origin and why War needs to get the guillotine. Long ago, before Retro was born, War tried to give birth to a male successor of the Wrath Infernaling. His attempts with his wife left him with several daughters and an exhausted mother. Eventually Retro was born, but that wasn't the end of it. The amount of stress that came with raising so many children led to War's wife seemingly abandoning her family. The daughters, concerned and enraged, confronted War as to where she went. When War didn't respond, one of the older sisters, Pendulombra, slapped him. War got so pissed he burned half of Pendulombra's body in one squeeze, causing hellfire magic to spill into Dulum. That's why Dulum is so much more violent and aggressive to everyone, including demons. Pendulombra ran off so far that she came across a light way. Earlier back during Insatiation section, I mentioned how the portals seem to glow white occasionally, This white glow is likely the same that Boyfriend and Pendulumber encountered, the lightway that leads to Providise. On the other side of the lightway was none other than the Providity King himself, who proposed a special opportunity and a second chance at life. Pendulumber took this opportunity and became the guardian of the gates to Providise. So yeah, you can see that Pendulumber is just one of the unfortunate victims of the cruel society living in Infernadise. That's kinda why I'm a little defensive when it comes to her like I was earlier when Atrocian mentioned her, because she's a super sweet woman. Also, now you know why War is probably the most evil demon of Infernadise that we know of for now. I'm glad War exists though, because I almost forgot how everyone's a demon since the Infernalings are so lovable. Except for you. I hope you catch the bubonic plague. I mean, Retro and Pendu's father is so bad that even his IPU counterpart mentions how much of a piece of shit he is. Boyfriend gets his ass out of there again before he gets blasted into dust. Pendulumber suspects her father is a part of this anomaly, which is yet another small hint for what's to come. Pendulumber is such an unfortunate character, both when it comes to story and like the fanbase in general. I mean, Retro's mod does promote Infernadise, not Providise, but still, it's unfortunate. She's like between two of the other most popular girls in the mod. One preceding her, and one, well, let's not discuss that just yet. I would like to showcase one more side story related to this section before the end. I'm not really sure where this is on the timeline, but this is either due to the swirling vortex or a lightway. Regardless, Retro and Pendu have a sweet reunion after all that is past. There are so many more parallels between the siblings than I recall. Both Pendulumber and Retro ended up being guardians for Infernadise and Providise. Genius of Retro to put both siblings as the introduction to the main story and the finale. They also both distanced themselves from their family names and identities. Pendu became Pendulumbra, Virupent became Retro. I mean, the parallels are so close that Retro states that Dulam reminds him of himself. That's actually what engages their little battle. At the end, the two say their goodbyes, and whatever rift opened began to close. It's honestly such a sweet reunion that I had to bring it before the conclusion. Now on to the second half of the finale. Boyfriend returns to a black void, but this time, someone else is there with him. Someone documenting everything that has transpired so far, and eventually they reveal themselves. It is none other than the Infernal Lord of Death, Nightflayed. Yep, her. The girl that managed to dethrone the amount of Sims Sakurama built over the course of 4 years within just a week. This is also how I discovered that all the females in the mod are voiced by only one voice actor, which is honestly astonishing. I genuinely thought every female had a different voice actor with how talented Nymphia is, one of the most underrated voice actors of our generation. Back to Nightflayed. After reviewing this mod and seeing it for the first time, there were so many little details which I missed that I mentioned in this video. Back then in Lust Part 1, there she was. She was the one to call Sakurama. She was the one transporting boyfriend and girlfriend around the Infernal Lands and basically allowing them to cheat death. All these forms boyfriend had were adaptations and defenses to each specific environment, not just because they're a badass. Literally every Infernaling would have robbed boyfriend, murdered him, or turned him into a slave without Nightflayed. Regardless, Nightflayed provides one final test for boyfriend to overcome, and then his trip to Infernadise is over. So, extirpation, huh? I actually don't even think it's really necessary for a Nightflayed analysis. I've sprinkled details throughout the entire video. I mean, she utilizes her capabilities as Death to learn more about Infernadise and the universe that surrounds them all. Her plan to get boyfriend to her morgue almost worked without any other demon noticing, but someone intervened. I think one thing I could mention is that Nightflayed seems to be the closest to one certain character that views her as his master. If you know, you know, but for now that is something I'll go back to in a bit. Okay, let's talk about the actual song that concludes Infernadice's mod. Though, what is there that hasn't been said already? We can point out the obvious and show the body bags on the floor, or talk about the extremely challenging gameplay. One of the most notable things this mod is known for though is the dozens of references to FNF's past community-made mods. I would recommend you watch this video for more detail. It's truly a beautiful song and a great homage to everything the community has done. A notable reference here is the expurgation one, which actually shows a bit of her thoughts regarding boyfriend and the others. War is negatively mentioned here, so it appears that Nightflayed has beef with him too. During the climax of the song and one of the best animated sequences of any mod ever, something piqued my interest. Circulating Nightflayed in this scene is a black and red film reel. Nightflayed has an ability that I did not bring up yet, which is the ability to peer into the memories of their subject. So the black and red film reel seen here is every memory that boyfriend has had. It's a super genius detail. If you pay attention, there are hundreds of background locations from other mods in this reel. Though this ability is only seen when boyfriend is injured or killed. Alas, boyfriend withstands death herself and Nightflayed warps him out of there. I'm sure it's a bit shocking for me to have such a small section for a large song, but already so much has been said. It's probably the best song of the entire mod. I mean, Retro literally dropped Extirpation as the first single from the mod. I actually wrote a lot for this section originally, but I cut most of it down since I feel like it wasn't necessary to discuss. But now, let's talk about the most pivotal point in the story that everything has been building up to, the fallout. Nightflayed is summoned to a meeting with 3 other Infernal Lords and even the Infernal Lord Queen. As you might have guessed, Nightflayed did not operate this whole thing on her own. Back at the beginning of Wrath, I suspected that War was likely the one to call Retro. I was correct. However, not only did he call him, but he was the one to force Retro into his outburst. Retro wasn't even the one in control. War controlled Retro during his blackout, though he nearly leveled the entirety of Infernadise. Nightflade, however, did not intend for War to intervene, and she planned for Boyfriend's arrival to go smoothly, just as a simple experiment. War utilized Boyfriend's arrival as a way to prove Retro's worth because he's an asshole. The Infernalord Queen arrives, detailing how big of a disaster the swirling vortex has become. Not only has Infernadise and Providise relationship been on super thin ice now, but multiple realities are colliding. That's how Retro was able to see his sister, and I think that's also why IPU and Infernadise had a crossover side story. All the side stories actually could be potentially canon because of this rift. Only a few of them, however, are worthy of discussing later. The Infernalord Queen mentions someone that is not the Providie King, but what could it be? Well, only time will tell. The background in the scene provides so much information. Full bodies of the Infernalords and the Infernalord Queen. There's even individual biomes that are briefly shown. War's throne room, wherever the hell Pestilence area is, Famine's graveyard, and Death's morgue. Also, War has a surprisingly really fucking cool design. Speaking of designs, for the first time even the Infernalord Queen is revealed. The Providie King is also seen with his Provenites, and so is it who shall not be named for now. After that whole discussion, Nightflade transfers Boyfriend to a special location in Regurgatory. This special location is known as the Mixter Bar. Boyfriend reunites with girlfriend and her dad. Mixter, the owner of the bar, is there to accompany them. Mixter was formerly just a wandering wisp in Regurgatory, but his encounter with Nightflade upon her arrival left him with a purpose. Now, he serves as the bartender to only those Nightflade allows into the bar. It's a sweet tale that shows the kindness between both Nightflade and Mixter, both feeling indebted to each other. Mixter is canonically friends with Grillby, by the way. I adore Mixter as a character. He serves as a way to integrate both Retro and Kamex's cool remixes, and also is just appreciative of music as I am. Anywho, Mixter offers for Boyfriend and Daddy Dears to sing as a way of paying for the tab. The two agree to play a remix of Dad Battle as the credits roll. The end screen features a withering photo of Retro, his sister, War, and the mother. Wow. Retro's mom is, well, that's certainly the most hottest demon in Infernadise.
Huh?
I know it must be so baffling for me to say that at the end of the story, but my god. She's probably hundreds of years old, but that's not gonna stop me.
What the f does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
You're welcome.
What the f is he talking about?
I could treat her better than War. Oh right, the end, sorry. Anyway, truly a fitting and beautiful conclusion. As much as I'd love to continue yapping about how beautiful this mod is, I will likely have to save that for later. For now, the side stories do pick up from where the finale leaves off, so let's talk about just a few before it's really over, eh? Now, there are dozens, maybe even hundreds of side stories to go over, but not all of them are really necessary to explain here. Besides, I think I almost lost my sanity combing through all of them in one day. Upon looking at all the side stories, I found 5 that continue from the finale that are pretty good continuation plot lines. Let's begin with Mosey and Dozarek, the conclusion to the IPU and Infernadise side story crossover arc. More particularly, the cliffhanger that the story leaves off on. During Strain's visit from Infernadise, every original and IPU counterpart character had time to bond together. However, Atrocian actually ended up possessing his counterpart. Mightflade, the IPU version of Nightflade, noticed this and sent Pico's IPU counterpart with them back to Infernadise to kill Atrocian. While this whole story is kinda minuscule to the overarching plotline of Infernadise, this one tiny event could have big ramifications. If Atrocian is killed by someone who came from another universe, the Infernalords could end up waging war on themselves? Aside from that, a more direct continuation would be the Sakurama vs Heartbreaker Sakurama side story. In this one, Sakurama and her second phase argue after Boyfriend's departure. Sakurama actually stands up to her Heartbreaker form, and she mentions that there is actually a third form of Sakurama. This form only seems to come out after Sakurama isn't able to find a compatible mate, but I suppose there's no way to know for certain. Who knows? Maybe a future story may actually show Sakurama's third phase, but if it does, well, it seems like Sakurama might actually be financially and mentally fucked. Now, the final 3 side stories that pick up from Death's perspective, starting with Sakurama vs Nightflade. Sakurama enters Nightflade's morgue to question her regarding the previous day with Boyfriend's arrival. After one little experiment, Nightflade explains why Boyfriend was there, but before Sakurama can ask any more, Nightflade tells her that their deal is up. While Sakurama leaves, Atrocian soon approaches the morgue next. Nightflade greets him, and mentions how she heard his whole bitching after Boyfriend left the emulous expanse. Nightflade and Atrocian engage in an argument, and Nightflade mentions how she gave him the opportunity to become Wrath's infernaling. In a fit of rage, Atrocian engages in battle and a remix of Extirpation plays. I love the remixes of Extirpation, though there are very few. The piano motif is sick. Nightflade packs Atrocian up and puts him in his place, and Atrocian leaves. Atrocian seems to have the biggest distaste for Nightflade, which is kind of interesting, seeing as War was the one to fuck him over with Wrath. The IPU counterparts of these two seem to actually be on more good terms though, since Atrocian works directly under Nightflade and IPU. The final side story to mention would be Nightflade versus Retrospecter. In this one, Retro questions Nightflade as to how War was able to control him during the fight. Nightflade explains something that I have mentioned previously. Infernalords are able to draw out the powers of their infernalings, which include evolution and fusion. Though I already mentioned that, this gives a bit more context when it comes to how exactly War controlled Retro. With that out of the way, that's basically... Wait, hold on. Yes? Oh, of course. Well, it seems that there's still one more section. I almost forgot to discuss it who shall not be named. Okay, I swear this is the final section. Actually, you don't even have to go through this. If you want, the video is technically over now. I've covered everything. About everything. This section is more speculatory than anything. So, what is the Watcher exactly? Well, it's something that both Infernadise and Prelude seem to be gatekeeping, that's for sure. Way back in the beginning, I alluded to the Watcher's presence. There's actually a rule that both Infernadise and Prelude share, that consequences will be served to anyone who speaks of the Watcher. Initially, I thought the Watcher was only teased a bit, but my god, the more I researched, the more that thing kept popping up. At this point, I believe the Watcher's role is some sort of overarching character haunting the narrative like Gaster or Image Friend. Let's look at everything the mod provides regarding the Watcher so far. Firstly, the 100% achievement is literally called Infernadise Watchkeeper. In the intro text, One Light states, "O mighty Watcher, guide us to eternity." A side story also mentions the Watcher. Funnily enough, it's the corrupted universe I brought up way back then. I'm not sure whether this version of Retro is speaking to the viewer or Nightflade, but it's one of the two. This corrupted variation seems to be aware of the Watcher's existence. In the song itself, Retro faces off against this corrupted version, and for a moment its face cracks. This corrupted version mentions how some figure in the sky was responsible for their corruption. The only thing in the sky, however, is the swirling vortex, but the Watcher is more likely beyond that swirling vortex that could have caused this. Mixer name drops the Watcher during his Triple Trouble remix. This would make Mixer the first character from the main universe that actually says their name. So, it would appear that people in Regurgatory are allowed to speak of the Watcher without consequence. There even seems to be an IPU counterpart of the Watcher. In an IPU side story battle, the IPU variation of Nightflade mentions the Matcher. So this thing, whatever it is most likely present within all realities. The last information given about the Watcher is the case file. Yep. After translating the code through several decryptions, a direct message from the Watcher appears to be given. The Watcher congratulates the player, and there's an implication that a potential ARG or interactable thing of sorts could occur in the future. And of course, the Watcher ends with mentioning how Infernadise has only begun their tale. Now, the speculative part. There are three things I like to bring up here. The Watcher, Dozerk's creator, and Retro's mother. In the center of all three of these things is the swirling vortex itself. Now, I'm not saying these three are the exact same person, no, absolutely not, there's no way, but they all likely share a connection to the vortex. Retro's mother vanished, and though Pendulummer suspects that she's somewhere in Infernadise, I don't think so. More likely, Retro's mother was either sent into that swirling vortex or went to escape from War and is in some other reality. Though I have another theory. Since War is an Infernalord, it's possible that Retro's mother knows the other Infernalords. Thus, Retro's mother could have contacted Nightflade, but then warped her elsewhere. Most likely not Mixer's bar though, because Retro probably would have seen her since he is a frequent visitor. I know I sound like an average Deltarune conspiracist, but there are so many possibilities as to where she went. But let's say that she actually vanished through the vortex. Then there is a chance she actually met the Watcher for herself. Now let's discuss Dozerk's creator. There is an extremely high possibility that Dozerk's creator is in that vortex. More importantly, Dozerk's creator may actually be in the same world as wherever the Watcher is. I could be reaching, but there has to be a reason why Dozerk was sent down to Infernadise. Now keep that in mind for a second. Why does Infernadise and Prelude refuse to mention the Watcher? The possible reasons are endless. I feel most likely, though, that it's because the Watcher created both Infernadise and Prelude. I know we're entering like insane levels of conspiracy, but what if the Watcher stems from like a realm of creation? That same realm that Dozerk's creator could be in? The same realm that Retro's mom could have escaped to? I mean, at the very least, the Watcher has to be of some rank above the Infernalord Queen and the Prelude King, right? They're at the top of the mural, which shows all ranks and power of Infernadise and Prelude. At the end of the day, it is just speculation, but Retro's left us with so many questions that I begin to lose my mind overthinking it. Maybe the Watcher's existence of its own is some universal anomaly, which is why Prelude and Infernadise prohibits any mention of it. I'm gonna stop now before I go too far though. If you manage to go through all my insane ramblings and understand it, I commemorate you. All that being said though, this is the end. Most definitely. I've explored everything that needs to be explored. From the beginning to the end to even the future to come. I think the most likely outcome is that Infernadise's story will continue through comics, which I'm hopeful for. But even if it's not comics, I'm excited to see where Infernadise goes since the story is only beginning. Now, I'm gonna wrap up this video, so if you really don't care about that stuff, you can go ahead and leave now. I have so much to say to you all. This, very video has been nagging at my head for such a long time. But first, I just want to thank everyone on the team for providing this beautiful mod. I honestly look up to Retro now because his writing is truly something admirable. I've also enjoyed Kamex's music. One of his songs from his Dreams EP in 2023 was in my most top 3 played for that year. I've been following the development of Part 2 for so long and I've always held on to hope, so I'm glad to see it's finally here. Retro's situation is actually quite like my best friend's in a way. A main struggle Retro had with the mod was depression and demotivation. My friend, who has been working on a project for over 3 years, shares that same struggle. It's definitely not something that can be overcome so easily at all, so my respect for Retro is so huge since he overcame it. I hope Retro is enjoying his extended break post-Infernadise release. This mod feels like a gift to everything the FNF community has built, and everyone working on this mod has more than all of my respect. I mean, there's literally a Deltarune and Sonic reference in the same fucking line. Oh goddammit, he already mentioned it in the intro texts. Anyway, this mod was made for people like me. While the computer I use is not compatible with this mod, this video was an opportunity to show my appreciation through other ways. From the wonderful storytelling to the immersive art style, the backgrounds, the music, it's truly perfection. This video feels like it's necessary to be made. I'm not a furry at all, but on this channel I've discussed that sort of genre so many times and at this point I'm like a furry magnet. One of my closest friends is a furry, I have an IRL close friend that's a furry, my best friend Nico literally has a soundboard of me saying furry baddies, which he'll never let me live down.
Confused.
Furry baddies. Furry baddies. Furry baddies. No! I mean, for the love of God, I'm even being cold followed by furries on an Instagram account I barely use. It's just something that's so funny to me. Oh, and the morning after Infernadise's release, my hair ended up looking like 2 demonic horns. Ain't that funny? So yeah, I love this mod. Lots of fun stuff like that. But now it's time to discuss what the subscribers have really been asking. What the hell happened between 2024 and 2025? Like I may have mentioned before, this video went through quite a lot of rewrites. I thought I had nailed it down originally, but things fell apart pretty quickly. Rewrite after rewrite, and eventually my spirit began to break. I was genuinely in one of the worst places emotionally in my life. You see, the main reason why Socio IV has had monthly uploads instead of more recent ones is because I have 2 other series to work on. One is a Minecraft project I've been working on since 2020, and another is an animated project I've been working on since 2023. I believed that I was immune to demotivation, and that I would get all 3 projects done in due time by scheduling everything right. But late 2024 came and shit began to fall apart. The 2 other projects were being consistently worked on, but Socio IV, I feel like I failed all of you. I felt ashamed. I deleted the Discord, wiped everything, almost shut down the channel. But I had to think. I mean, Socio IV is nothing without all of you. The people who have done so much, supported me through everything. So in summer 2025, I pressed onward. Here we are now though. Why can't I go any further, you might ask? Primarily because of 2 things. 1, YouTube is shit, and Socio IV was a hobby for me. It might have been a dream job I had as a kid, but it sure as hell isn't now. 2, school's been getting hundreds of times more challenging than before. Taking AP classes, working on stuff related to my actual job. There's just no chance. So I wanted to create one last spark of light. One last goodbye to Socio IV. Thankfully, with Retrospecter's V2 story, I managed to get that opportunity. I really want to apologize for all the promises I made that I could never really keep. Sequels to other videos I would have done if I had gotten more time. But I know someone out there can do it better than I can. If there's anyone I want to thank for making this channel thrive, it would be 2 people. Brooke and Nico. These 2 are like the Benji and Luther to my Ethan Hunt. Brooke is absolutely one of my main motivators for why this channel kept moving in 2025. Anytime I needed her, she was there to help. She's the reason why Socio IV succeeded in the past. The sprites, the thumbnails, I beg y'all to support her Twitter. Brooke is genuinely like an angel. Nico is like my closest friend in the entire world and is someone who's always been cheering me on since the beginning. You've seen him more on this channel than anyone else and he's helped with so much. You can check out his channel below. Speaking of which, what happens with Socio IV now? Most likely it's done for good. There is a super low chance that I continue on my second channel with Infernadise content if a continuation happens. Do not count on it though. I made this specifically to be the finale to Socio IV. But I will appear again in the future. On Nico's channel, I'll obviously be there in live streams and stuff when we have free time. I will also be voice acting for multiple projects like The Owner, The Server Reality, which Pedro probably won't release for another decade. But video-wise, this is the final nail in the coffin. So, for the last time, thank you so much for everything. I hope to see you again someday. See ya!